This Boeing 787 Dreamliner landed in Langkawi International Airport, marking the start of Qatar Airways' third destination in Malaysia. Now, this state carrier is rapidly spreading its wings in Asian destinations as Qatar continues to grapple into a second year of blockade by its neighbouring countries, restricting routes and driving costs higher. I speak to Group CEO, His Excellency Akbar to find out if the worst is over for the airline. Congratulations on the launch of your newest flight into Malaysia, Langkawi. Just start with that, just what kind of demand are you expecting from this route and why Langkawi, why now?
Langkawi has been on the list of destinations that we plan to operate for the last 10 years. But you know, as every airline, we have priorities in sequence and to see from where we will get the feed for Langkawi. Any airline that operates to a destination studies how the network will contribute to this destination. This is why it was a little bit below in the priority for the last 10 years. Now that we have a good network that is ready to feed into Langkawi, and we have launched, and our estimate was correct. We already have good loads and very good forward booking to Langkawi. Langkawi, I know, is also a favorite place with your Prime Minister. I'm sure very delighted that we are coming here.
And you've met him a few months back when you were in KL.
Yes.
What is your impression of the man?
Well, I have, he's a fatherly figure, first of all, for me. He is also a person that I have huge appreciation for what he has delivered for his country when he was the first term Prime Minister. I think he really put Malaysia on the map and did the progress that you are facing today. He was the architect. So you can see that his management style, I think, is very much like me.
Which is?
Very determined, very focused, and very result-driven.
I'd like to talk a bit about new routes in Malaysia, because the last time we spoke with you a few months back, our channel, you did mention that there's a possibility of adding Kota Kinabalu, Sabah to one of your latest.
We will add Kota Kinabalu is our next destination in Malaysia. We are going to announce Kota Kinabalu in a very short, distant future.
Within this year?
Not this year, but hopefully it will be announced next year.
And what kind of opportunities do you see from better connectivity between the Spa region and the hub in Doha?
You know, this region has not been properly served by many carriers. And Qatar Airways is very good at identifying such niche markets where we operate and are doing it very successfully. We always take risk, and business is always a risk that you need to take. If you take risks, 10 risks, and you fail in 2, you have still succeeded in 8. That will cover the 2 failures.
Now, I would like to get to bigger topics because Qatar Airways have been turning its attention to more Asian and Europe destinations. I presume it's particularly after what happened about 2.5 years ago, the blockade. How has that pressure made Qatar more competitive and even maybe more flexible in meeting these demands that you're saying?
As a matter of fact, this blockade has woken us up. We knew who our friends are. It made us more independent. It made us very self-confident about the opportunities that we have and the capabilities of my country. You know, our economy is growing. Our investments are flourishing. The airline is growing. And Qatar is very much now on the map because people realized that the blockade was not for the issues for which we have been accused, but actually it was to take over our economic resources, to have a regime change, to control my country, and to dictate their terms on the citizens of my country. And in everything they failed. Today, we hold our head very high and have hugely boosted our confidence in our ruler and our people.
Did you remember how you felt when you heard about the news, and how has it changed you?
I was not in my country when it happened. I had to rush back to my country to take charge of supplying our country with all the essentials that was blocked by these ill-advised and ill-intended blockade against my country. And within the 48 hours of the blockade, we were supplying our country all its requirements. We created an air bridge, and our friends, our neighbor in the north and Turkey, helped us to break this blockade. These individuals in these countries that blockaded us with their ill intention did not realize that Qatar has friends that are very much stronger than them, that will come to our aid and to help us. And we succeeded in doing this. And most importantly, they forgot that they had a young, determined, wise leader that will make them fail. And they forgot that Qatar had a very strong airline that will sustain the air bridge that our people needed to get them supplied.
As CEO, looking back, would you say that's the toughest moment in your career?
It was a big shock that people you expected to be your brethren, your friends, your relatives did this to you. Secondly, it was a huge confidence boost to us, especially to me as an airline CEO, that we will manage to break this blockade.
Has it hardened your leadership style?
No, my leadership style will not change. My leadership style from the day I took over my airline has been the same, but it has made me more determined to make sure that we sustain and grow our company in order to face all the challenges that will come in our way.
Third year into the blockade now, is the airline back to solid health, do
Yes.
you think?
Though we have lost, the loss is not because of mismanagement of an airline like their airlines are facing. It is because of the higher operating cost due to the illegal blockade of the airspace,
So longer routes.
which does not belong to them. It belongs to the international community under the auspices of the International Civil Aviation Organization. Unfortunately, the leadership of the International Civil Aviation Organization, which is ICAO, has shown weakness and favoritism in managing this affair. They should have challenged these countries, and they should have imposed on their countries that they cannot blockade an international airspace.
In March, Qatar Airways reported a record loss of $639 million. When we come back, I asked the CEO if he will put the brakes on expansion and if the worst is over for the airline.
$640 million losses last year, the financial year. Is the worst over for Qatar Airways? And what is your strategy? Because you're unlikely to get any help from the political and economic environment.
Qatar is a strong country. Qatar is financially very robust country, and we will sustain whatever pressure will be put on Qatar Airways. But Qatar Airways will not shy from expanding, and we will keep on growing our network and our fleet.
So you're not putting the brakes on capacity
Never.
expansion?
The leadership of my country, the direction from His Highness the Emir to me, is to continue the growth that we are going through.
And what is the next step to bring in more tourists into Qatar?
The next step is to let the world community, tourists, what you call them, the hidden treasures of my country. I have recently been appointed as the Secretary General of the National Tourism Council, And it is now my job, what I have done in the airport and in the airline, to replicate in tourism. And by the grace of God and the support of my ruler, I have to achieve this.
And what is the biggest challenge from where you see it when it comes to aviation at the moment? Is it rising fuel costs, currency exchange?
The most important challenge now to the airline is the negative news that the aviation is getting from the Greens. We are being blamed for the climate change. We are being blamed for creating emissions which are not good for our environment, which really is not true. Airlines are investing a lot of money bringing fuel efficient aeroplanes, development in the technology, but the real blame for this should not come to the airline, because aviation plays a very important part in the economic development, jobs, tourism, for which many countries depend. And you cannot just ground aeroplanes and then expect the world economy to grow. It is the investment from aircraft manufacturers, engine manufacturers, fuel suppliers to tap in the technology to improve the air travel business, to improve emissions, to make engines more fuel efficient, to make engines less polluting. But when you really go to sea, ships, cars pollute more than aviation. But aviation are being used as many countries as a cash cow to impose taxes on emissions, but forgetting the other entities that are equally or more responsible for emissions.
Sustainability and reducing carbon footprint is the commitment for Qatar Airways moving forward.
Very much so, because Qatar Airways' average fleet age is just 5 years, and we continue to invest. We continue to buy aeroplanes that are more fuel efficient, and in the process, it is putting a lot of financial strain on the airline. But we are sustaining it for the good of the people, for the good of our planet. And we'll continue to do so because Qatar Airways want to reduce drastically our emission footprint.
Okay. Now, there's no question to Qatar Airways' superior onboard product and innovation, but is there anything that, or something that we might expect from Qatar next year?
You will continuously expect things from Qatar Airways. We will continue to innovate. We will continue to raise the bar for our industry. And I'm glad to say that Qatar Airways was in the forefront of introducing products, which today is the norm in airlines. We were the first. We were the first to have flatbed seats. We were the first to have flatbeds in business class. We were first to have aisle access to every seat in business class. We were the first airline to provide dine on demand. We were the first airliner to of course have first in business, our tagline for the Q Suite. But now we are becoming a bit more intelligent by patenting product so that other airlines, they don't copy us.
When we come back, is Qatar Airways still planning to leave the One World Alliance? We also find out from the CEO his thoughts on Malaysia Airlines.
This was a very fine airline, which went down the road, and I am confident that this airline has huge opportunity to have a turnaround. But some very bitter medicine will have to be consumed to do this. An airline is a very important part of the economy of a country. A very good example is the government of the state of Qatar to support such a big airline which is based in such a small country. Another example is Singapore Airlines. You know, a state country that is supporting such a big airline and such a fine airline. So, you know, there is a lot to learn from how we manage our companies and how we deliver the product to our passengers and how we are really shining in the industry. But you should never shy away from sustaining the national carrier. It's a very important economic tool. Imagine you don't have a national carrier and you have such big plans for developing tourism. Why should you be at the mercy of other carriers to deliver this strategy, very important strategy of your country? So it is extremely important that Malaysian Airlines should be sustained and to be allowed to grow, but at the same time to restrict certain factors that is pulling them down. Frankly speaking, I don't want to give you the reason why I'm delaying, but let me tell you that we have been requested by other major players in the alliance to hold on to see if they can repair the impasse that we have between us and American Airlines. You know that there is a big change in the management of American Airlines. Unfortunately, the major change that we were expecting in the last board meeting didn't happen. It is the largest airline in the world, but the worst performing of the three big American carriers. And I'm surprised that the shareholders of American Airlines are tolerating the mismanagement of this airline that was a really very fine product in the United States. So we will wait and see. The request that we are giving the opportunity for our good friends, the other alliance partners, to see how they could resolve the issues that we have, which is enticing us to withdraw from One World. But we will not hold this decision for too long. We have to make a decision, move on. We don't want to waste our time. We have more important things to do in Qatar Airways, in our expansion, and we have a lot more work to do in keeping on continuously improving our product and our services to our valued passengers, and making sure that Qatar Airways is always leading in raising the bar and moving the goalpost for other airlines to copy us.
So for the 5th time, best airline in the world?
Yes, and
how do you stay ahead?
And this accolade is given to us 5th time, but also the only airline that has received it for so many times.
How do you stay ahead? How do you find out
for me, it has now become business as usual because we are the best, quite simply.
And how do you measure being the best?
Because our passengers tell us we are the best.
So you've been CEO for 22 years now. Are you going anywhere? What's your vision
still
next?
It's not 22 years. It is still some time more. So it still needs another 3 months.
So over 2 decades as CEO, sir, what is your vision for Qatar Airways and the state of Qatar?
Always to be leader, always to be the best, always to reflect the name of my country to the highest level.
Are there any CEOs in the world that you look to and inspire you in your way of running the company?
No, there is no CEO, but there are world leaders that inspire me. And one is your leader.
Why is that so?
Because I am copying a lot of qualities he has.
Where are you looking next for growth?
Well,
expansion.
The world is very large. There is many places still that we can grow in. But I cannot tell you my commercial strategy.
Thank you so much, sir, for making time for this interview. You've been watching AWANI Review with me, Cynthia Ng, and that was His Excellency, Group CEO of Qatar Airways, Akbar. Thank you for watching.